Oh, what's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 346. We're talking my heritage through my food with Jasmine Sheth of Tasting India in Chicago, Illinois. This is part of the In the Weeds Menu Meeting Fall 2021 campaign. You know, we're omnipresent, so you're seeing video casts from chefs that are part of these virtual heritage dinners, which is what we're going to be talking about today. We got video casts with Halo orgs that are doing amazing work to support the mental, financial, and physical health of hospitality workers. Elle will tell us a little bit more about that. Clubhouses, articles, Instagram takeovers, memes, TikTok videos, anywhere in any way that people across the hospitality industry are communicating. You will find us there throughout this campaign. This is week 2 of 4. All right, with no further ado, I want to bring in Elle Jarvis from In the Weeds. Elle, good to see you.
Hi, Jensen. Nice to see you.
Yes, we're going to see so much of each other. We've already seen a lot of each other. Every conversation we had has been amazing. Good people connecting with good people is your superpower. So I appreciate that. And I'm going to continuously embarrass you by saying that, because I think it's absolutely true. And today is another representation of that. Before we get to talking with Jasmine, talking about these virtual dinners, give us the quick overview of In the Weeds, and then specifically kind of this campaign, Menu Meeting Heritage Dinners. Kind of connect the dots for us.
Sure. So In the Weeds, we are a national 501c3 public charity. Our mission is to champion the physical, financial, and mental health of the hospitality professional. And we wholeheartedly believe that a sustainable career and a work-life balance in this industry cannot happen unless all 3 of those buckets are full. So we have been having conversations nationally and implementing resources and programs nationally to be able to support physical, financial, and mental health across the board. And collaboration over competition is the name of the game with us. Yes. And I'm just so excited to be doing this menu meeting campaign with you. Really diving into some of these conversations. Heritage Dinner is our marquee fundraising event that we hope to raise enough funds to drive our work through 2022. And, having these conversations before the event, a la a traditional menu meeting, going into traditional service has been really fun to get to know everybody a little bit more intimately and hear their stories.
Yeah, because the dinner, we talk about this on Best Served, food is just the proof that you are who you say you are. Mm-hmm. And who you are and your story and your journey, like that's the stuff that gives us the feels. That's what we really want. And sometimes we get so caught up in the minutia of what we do and how we do it. And you're only as good as the next plate up, and leave your shit at the door, smile as part of your uniform. All of those things play into a lack of physical, financial, mental health. I think I can mess up the order. I got to get it together. Physical, financial, mental health of hospitality workers. Because if we can't give self-hospitality and hospitality to our team, there's no chance that we can sustain hospitality for the guest. And so that's what these conversations are really about. And then Heritage Dinner is it's fun to explore and sometimes challenging to explore our heritage. And so I'm very interested hearing all the stories of the joys and the pains that lead to representing yourself, your family, your culinary techniques on a plate. So I'm big fan of everything that we've been talking about. And Jasmine with Tasting India. Let's just bring Jasmine in now, because I want to hear from Jasmine. I'm very excited to have Jasmine on the show. And Jasmine, good to see you.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you too.
All right. So coming to us from Chicago, we talked a little bit before, been in Chicago since 2017. Came from New York before that. So give us a little bit, even where are you from originally? Give us the trajectory, kind of your personal path and the culinary path as well. And then we'll talk heritage, we'll talk the dinner, and get into it.
Yeah, sounds good. So originally I'm from India. I grew up in Mumbai and moved to the US, specifically New York, New Jersey area for graduate school. So back in 2003 now. Wow, that seems like years ago. But like every good Indian daughter, I went to graduate school for my MBA, got a double master's degree, made my parents proud, did the corporate job, circuit, worked in advertising for many years in New York. And, I think towards the last few years that I was in New York, I always felt something was missing. Before I moved to Chicago, like a few years before I moved here, I ended up getting laid off from an advertising job and was just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And, the stable paycheck and stuff was like obviously so attractive. So I knew I wanted to go back to corporate, but I also knew that I needed something at least to start on the side to kind of keep me interested in life in general.
Sure.
And so I started cooking for friends and like having dinner parties with no sort of specific aim or goal of like doing this on a commercial scale. And then that was the time where there was like a huge boom in sort of these online sort of meal delivery platforms and hire a private chef online and things like that. So I started working with a couple of these online platforms, and that kind of really blew up to the point where I was like working 5 days a week at a corporate job, and then every weekend doing like 2 or 3 events out of a small Manhattan kitchen, if
The
you can
true
imagine
side hustle.
the struggle. Yes.
Yes.
And then in 2017, I was very, very fortunate to actually be a recipient of the James Beard Foundation Women in Culinary Leadership Grant, which basically was granted to, I would say, I think maybe about 20 or 24 female chefs across the US. Each of them would be paired with one restaurateur who, obviously was very successful in their own right. And it would be sort of this externship where you could choose whether you wanted to learn about the restaurant industry in the back of the house or front of the house, or what have you, or events, or whichever areas interested you. And I had never worked in a restaurant before, so this was like completely new for me. And not to mention that the opportunity was not in New York, it was in Chicago. So I literally had to move in like 2 weeks. I had to pack one suitcase, move in 2 weeks. It was a city I had never been to. I didn't know anyone here. So my first weekend, we were in a hotel room trying to, like, my sister came with me and we ran around the entire city trying to look for like sublets and apartments to stay in. And it was the Chicago Marathon weekend. So literally everything that could go wrong was going wrong, basically.
Wow.
But that was basically the start of moving into
what a way to
the
acclimate
hospitality
you.
field.
For better or worse, getting thrown into the fire like that is the unfortunate norm of this industry. So you learned a lot about being in the hospitality industry just by the fact that you had to upheave your entire life and make this massive shift. So I can appreciate that. A couple things I want to unpack from what you said, because that you highlighted a very classic first generation immigrant story scenario, right? Where it's like you have to go, education is the unlock to potential, to the American dream. You have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer, right? You have to be somebody who comes out of your double masters with 6 figures to have achieved something. And so that can be a struggle often. Then even if parents say work a blue collar job and said, I worked hard my entire life so you wouldn't have to do this. And then you see sometimes people come back to their heritage, they come back to the connections around the table, the foods that made us feel like we were at home. And sometimes there's immense pressure within the family to not go on this path. So I'm very interested, what was it like when you said, I'm going into this field that doesn't hold a lot of gravity in the Indian culture, right? As a professional. So break that down for us a little bit. I'm very interested in what the family interactions were.
Yeah, and as you were asking me these questions too, and I've been kind of reflecting the last couple of days, reflecting back on my sort of journey from, growing up in Mumbai to going to grad school to doing the corporate stuff. The more I think about it, the more I feel like I have been in the most fortunate circumstances. And I know that that's a privilege to say that too. But, I've been so lucky to have a family that is completely 100% supportive of what I want to do.
Great.
More so, and have more confidence in me than I ever have had in myself, right? So in 2017, when I had this opportunity to change careers and move to a whole new city, make maybe a fraction of the money that I was making, it was my parents and my sister and my partner who were the driving force behind me making that decision and saying, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. Because I was always the one that was doubting myself. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. It's like too much out of my comfort zone. I'm not making any money. And, being in that sort of corporate rat race, that becomes sort of your daily dialogue is the money. How much money are you making? How much are you saving? What are your assets? And, how much can you buy type of stuff. And I kind of lost myself a little bit in that. And when my parents and my family pushed me to take this opportunity, now that I look back at it, as hard as it was, and I cried the first 2 months that I was here and
I can
working
imagine.
16-hour days, getting home, like every bone in my body aching because I had never done that type of work before. It was really their confidence in my ability to do this and really find myself, no matter what it was that I would end up doing, that kept me going. And when I think back, like my parents have always, yes, they've always stressed the importance of education. I remember growing up, my mother would always say, I don't care what you end up doing in life, as long as you graduate with a master's degree. After you've graduated, go ahead and do whatever the hell you want, but you've got to get a master's degree, right? So yeah, education was of huge importance, but my dad was always the one that was kind of motivating us to think of what is our long-term goal, what's our end goal. And I'm not, I won't speak for my sibling, but for me, like I never really got the reason why he kept pushing us to do that. And I was always like, well, I have a lot of time in life to like figure out what my end goal is. Like, this is when I want to experiment and like see what I want to do. And he was always like, that's fine, but always have like an end goal. Like what's your exit strategy from like where you are if it's not making you happy, So I think when the transition happened, it sort of all those pieces fell into place. And I'm like, this is what he meant by saying, what's your
Yes.
end goal?
Sage advice from your father. All right, here's what we
Yeah.
need to have happen. We need to make sure that your sister and or family, if we can get time zones and tech to line up, that they're on the virtual hangout for that dinner. Because I would
Yeah.
love to hear the story of your family saying, yeah, we just said go for it because we believe in Jasmine. We believe in
Yeah.
her ability to manifest any destiny, any reality that she wants. And I appreciate what you said, because self-worth and self-doubt is something we grapple with so massively in this industry.
Absolutely.
And we, I mean, that's our mission, is to amplify the worth and work of those who feed their community. The work is hard. The worth is the hardest part of what we do.
Yes.
Because there's this polarization of food can change the world, and it's just food. Like it just goes here. So like we grapple with that and we struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah.
Elle, I saw the reaction that you had when she's talking about every bone in Jasmine's body hurting 14, 16 hour. How does that feed into amazing story, by the way? I know, Elle, we were both moved by Jasmine's trajectory and journey, but that part of it, Jasmine, like getting into the industry in that way, it's something we're trying to break the norm of that type of pain to get initiated. Yeah. What's your reaction there? How do you feel about that? How are you trying to mitigate some of the reality that Jasmine was just highlighting for us?
Yeah, sure. So I love everything about her whole story. Like her side hustle became her main hustle. Dads always know. My dad always told me, choose your career before your career chooses you. And when I was listening to Jasmine talk about this as her second career and like learning and being in the restaurant and like you can't move, I started cooking again when the pandemic started because all my consulting contracts were canceled. And I took over the kitchen at my parents' yacht club, which is, I call it a small boat club because yachts can't actually get under the bridge to get there. And I was like during the summer, it was awesome. I was cooking my food. It was beach food. The summer people were there. As soon as the summer people left, I was literally flipping burgers and poaching hot dogs. But the first few weeks of like getting back into the grind of line cooking, I don't think I showered for like 3 weeks because I just could take baths. I didn't have the energy when I got home to stand in the shower. I had to like draw a bath with Epsom salts and just like lay there. Getting back into it because I feel as though I, grew up in the restaurant, a private chef for so long. Then my second career was consulting, and then I had fall back on cooking when the pandemic started. But physically, it's absolutely exhausting. And then you try to like wake up the next morning and being a functioning adult. And I think what we're trying to do with In the Weeds is eliminate this like grind culture of, you're not working unless you're bleeding. Like that is so not, it doesn't have to be that way, right?
Yeah.
Like you can build in labor models that aren't so physically draining. So then there is actual energy to look after like paying your bills on time. So your credit score goes up and being able to check in with your therapist, or just like going for a walk with a cup of coffee and looking at your neighborhood dogs and not feeling like you have to sleep until a half an hour before your shift starts.
Yeah, hard work and hustle get conflated with bleeding out of the eyeballs to prove that you have the grit, that you can hack it. And so I think there's something there. We blur those lines because you are so busy that you can't separate the reality from the facade that you sometimes have to put up in food and beverage to create that unique, memorable guest experience. So really appreciate that. All right, Jasmine, I want to talk about food. Let's talk about food a little bit. I'm very excited. Tasting India. First, let people know if they're in Chicago, if they want to get their hands on some of your food, how would they go about that outside of the dinner? And then let's talk about the dinner and the food that you're serving there. But Tasting India, how can I experience that if I'm in Chicago?
Yeah, for sure. I would say if people are interested in Tasting India, first and foremost, definitely follow us on Instagram. It's tasting_India. It's the place where I usually release all of the new menus, announcing new pop-ups, all of those types of things. And then you can, once you're on the Instagram page, you can click on our link in the bio and sign up for our newsletter. That's the other way that we announce our new menus. So when we started Tasting India last year, or when I started, I don't know why I always say we. I feel like it makes me feel like bigger than I am.
Like you have a mouse in your pocket. I do that all the time. I'm like, we. I'm like, do I have a mouse in my
pocket? Yeah. And I have to like train myself not to, consciously like say I. And there is a place for we, because obviously, I couldn't have gotten where I am with Tasting India without the help and support of a lot of people. Sure. But for the longest time when I started Tasting India, I would say for the first 6 months, it was literally just me. I was creating the menus, I was posting, I was doing the social media marketing for it. I was sourcing all of my ingredients. I was prepping and cooking all of them. I was packaging them. I was slapping labels on each and every container, and I was delivering all the meals. So it was a lot. It was like a 70-80 hour work week, I would say, and it just never stopped. I would like sometimes wake up at 3 a.m. with a list in my head being like, shit, I didn't scratch this off the list. I need to get it done now.
Oh yeah.
So that's how it started. But the concept was really trying to highlight different Indian regional cuisines, right? So, Indian cuisine has not had its moment like, other sort of ethnic cuisines, which are in the mainstream now. What people know and understand about Indian cuisines is probably your $9.99 lunch buffet of curries and stuff. And nothing wrong with that. Those are delicious dishes, but that's not all that Indian cuisine is, right? Like when I grew up, my parents instill that sort of sense of adventure in every single way, right? Travel, eat different things, meet different people, have the hard conversations, all of those types of things. And that's what I want reflected in the Tasting India meals. So each week we highlight a different region of India. We build out what we call a thali. A thali is really literally translated as a round platter of food in India with multiple components. So the most elaborate thali could have as many as 25-30 components. The most minimalist thali can have as much as 3 components, but it's always a few different things that go together as a whole meal. And so our thalis almost always have about 5 components, and then we have additional add-on dishes that are outside of the thali concept that you can add on to your order and stuff as well. So that's really what Tasting India thalis are about. It's it's really trying to showcase to people that there is so much more to Indian food than we realize. And through this journey, I've realized a lot of folks that come from India as well have had a background from, in India, maybe their parents came from there, or they grew up there like me and then immigrated to the US. Their view of Indian food is also extremely limited. So a lot of the thalis and stuff that I've done, people are like, wow, I never knew like Assamese food could be this delicious, for example, or, that Gujarati food, which is, I'm from Maharashtra, but my parents are Gujarati. That food could have so many different variations of dishes. But what we really, what is really showcased and represented in mainstream sort of Indian restaurants is really just the North Indian curries, which, as delicious as they are they do such a disservice to the rest of Indian food.
I am so excited right now because you rattled off several words that I didn't understand, and I'm so excited about that. I am going to follow up with you. I will make sure and learn about those. And that's what I love.
Yeah.
I love learning. And
Yeah.
Indian food is not monolithic. I've learned that more and more as somebody who did not understand that. A country of billion people has a diverse food background. And so I think of, Floyd Cardozo was the first chef that made me think about Indian food. And I started to explore a little bit and took that opportunity. And then any places that he said to go try or dishes try, I made sure every time I was in New York, I went and tried those dishes. I think there's something really important. Chef Rosh, also somebody who's a friend of the show, is talking about Sindhi cuisine. I was like, I've never heard of Sindhi cuisine, and now I'm learning about that. And that's what you're creating, an opportunity to taste across India and doing it in a way that is thoughtful, it's creative, it's also engaging, because you're making it okay. Like, even for me as a student of culinary, to admit that I don't know what you just said is important, because sometimes we get so caught up in like, oh, I know everything about food. Oh, I've had Indian food. We don't open ourselves up to learning more and more and more. And so we just order the thing that's the safest. And you see that play out in cultural food as well as just American food. So I appreciate that you're making it exploratory and engaging, so it allows me the opportunity to learn something new and not feel stupid for not having known already, but feeling like this is my opportunity. So thank you for that. I want to take the last couple minutes. Elle, please give us the stats on the dinner. When is the dinner? How do I get to it? I need everything that Jasmine's talking about in my life. If I'm in Chicago, which now I wish I was in Chicago. And then Jasmine, I want to take the last couple minutes and have you tell us about the specific menu. But Elle, how do we get connected with the dinner?
Sure. So this is the Central Standard Time, which will be the second dinner that we do. So everybody's in for a treat because we'll get all the technical kinks out on the first one. It is on October 17th at 6 p.m. CST. You can go to our website or the link in our Instagram bio, www.intheweeds.us/let's-party. Smash that get my ticket link. You click on Chef Jasmine's, you can see the whole menu, and definitely check out Chef Melissa from Alma in New Orleans will be part of this dinner as well. So if you're in New Orleans, you're able
cool. We're gonna have Chicago, New Orleans, we have some India. Like, I am so excited about this.
It's going to be real. It's going to be a great event. You can add on a shaker and spoon tidy martini kit. You can order a bottle of Junipero gin to make those martinis with right on their website. Use code In the Weeds. It's 10% off. It's free shipping straight to your door. You can add on a supplement of Cha McCoy's Communion Caviar if you want to elevate the experience. And if you're not in Chicago and you're not in New Orleans and you just want to be a part of this conversation, you just donate $5 and you get the link and come hang out with us and have dinner with us on the internet.
You can tell Jasmine's going to tell some great stories that evening about all kinds of things. And if we get the family on, it's going to be out of control.
We're definitely going to try to get them on.
Yes,
my parents get a huge kick out of this type of stuff because they hear their name being mentioned and they hear me saying that they were right. So
two things parents love: seeing their children win at life and being acknowledged for the fact that that was all me. I made sure that Jasmine was ready for this venture in life. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. 3 courses to taste through India. Where are we tasting in India? And what are the dishes that you're going to be representing for this dinner?
Yeah. Absolutely. So this was a menu I was super excited to put together because it ties in sort of, my childhood, all the memories I grew up with. My mom is the youngest of 11 brothers and sisters. So needless to say, all of our holidays were centered around food with like 6 or 7 aunts cooking the most delicious food that I've ever eaten.
And they were definitely 25 items around the tally because
for sure
everybody had to show off their favorite dish.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like multiple courses that are all eaten together, a little bit of everything. So it just all comes together really, really well. So I wanted to showcase that in this menu.
Is it a little bit competitive?
Of course.
Okay, I kind of figured. I love
Yeah,
it.
at the end of the evening, your favorite aunt will sort of come to you and nudge you and be like, you need to like make a speech about my dish today. And
Especially now that
it
you're
was
the famous American chef in America. Now you have even
hardly,
more clout.
but yeah, it was definitely fun times. But what I wanted to highlight for the menu is sort of my background, right? So I'm a Gujarati. Gujarati is sort of a specific sort of religious sect, I guess. And one of the things that we eat in our cuisine at the start of the winter or the autumn is this dish called undhiyu, and it's basically a mix of like different sort of fresh seasonal root vegetables and this really sort of savory, unctuous green garlic, coconut, and cilantro masala. It's all cooked together in that, and it's just out of this world. And it's really just eaten during the winters, because in the winter you want to, the concept behind the dish was it has a lot of fat in terms of oil, the coconut and all of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And the reason behind that is in the winter you need to sort of insulate your body and protect it from the cold, and so all the fats help you do that.
So your
so
cooking
the,
tend to
the
have more coconut fat than say ghee and more.
It has a little bit of everything. So
Okay.
really, depending on the region of India that you're talking about, will the fat used will differ. So in the
Right.
south of
For
India,
you
they use a lot more
specifically,
coconut
is
oil.
it okay? Gotcha. In the South, it tends to
For
be more
us, for
tropical.
Gujaratis, it's a lot of ghee.
Okay.
But this specific dish has ghee as well as coconut. So best of everything.
Both, all the fats. It has all the
Yeah,
fats. I know Elle's
all
excited
the
about that
fats.
dish because Elle talks about being obsessively seasonal. She is obsessed
Yeah.
about it. So I could tell with the
Yeah.
root vegetables and all the fats.
My brain's right now. I'm like, it's gonna rain tomorrow. So there's
Yeah.
this huge sumac tree right down the street from my
Ooh.
new little shack on the beach. And I'm like, I gotta get to that sumac tree before it rains tomorrow, because then they're just gonna be toast for the rest of the fall. It's
Yeah.
That's great.
excessively seasonal. Yeah.
All right. So
That's awesome.
what else is on the menu? What else can we expect?
Yeah, and then for dessert, we're doing these really sweet, creamy saffron truffles that we call peda. Peda can be made out of literally anything. We make pedas or truffles, like round balls, out of whole wheat flour. We make them out of pineapple. We make them out of semolina. A huge number of variety in that. But these saffron pedas are made with koya, which is basically the product that you get from boiling milk down for hours on a really low flame. So the milk almost becomes like a creamy solid. And that's what we use as the base for this truffle. It's scented with saffron and cardamom and sprinkled with some nuts. And it's just the best end to a meal of this sort. And for an appetizer, we're having what I ate every Sunday morning for breakfast in my house was rice and lentil steam cakes that's sprinkled with really what we call chatpata, which is sweet, spicy, savory spice blend. It's sprinkled with that, and it's going to be paired with a mango pickle, sweet mango pickle.
I like everything that you're saying. I like how much you just mentioned. One of my favorite things about Indian food is that sweet, savory, salty, spicy. Like it hits all. It just melts your face off with like flavor. What I learned very early on from Indian food when I started exploring was like it was known for like spicy, like Thai food sometimes. Same thing. It's like the nuance of the flavor is there when you look at these regional types of cuisines and these dishes. But sometimes we said we just wanted to be spicy because we expect Indian food to be spicy. The best Indian food I've had has not been spicy. It has been heavily spiced and well developed, and it leaves you tingling in multiple different ways of that sensory experience. So I can really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that, because I think that's important, because sometimes people are like, I just want a spicy curry. It's like, yeah, that's good. That's just not the full experience that you can have from Indian cuisine. So I'm excited.
I think that's the biggest distinction that people need to understand and appreciate, is that spices does not mean spicy.
Right.
It just means a lot more flavorful. And there is no such thing as a curry powder. So I wish people would stop saying that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode. We can talk about curry spice, because I'm with you there 100%. So I appreciate that.
The last thing I do want to mention is that for folks that are not going to be in Chicago to experience this meal, in the city can also experience a little bit of Tasting India via our website. We have a line of Indian-inspired spice blends that we also sell, and that ships nationwide as well. So they can experience Tasting India via that too.
Not only do I like that you're doing that, I like that you have the entrepreneur mindset to make sure and let people know where they can find what you're working on, because we need to support each other as small business owners. And so I appreciate that. Excellent use of the plug. That is an important thing to be able to do and do.
My
so
dad will be so proud.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Jasmine Sheth of Tasting India in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your dinner. Appreciate you. We'll let you go.
Jensen, Elle, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, Jasmine Sheth. Awesome. Love that. And especially love that you have to innovate. You have to create diversity of revenue streams. I'm a big believer of CPG, consumer packaged goods. Jasmine, great job on that. You have to be omnipresent for people. So once again, let people know the date of the dinner and make sure that people connect to this dinner. Elle, any last thoughts from you as well?
October 17th, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, www.intheweeds.com/let's-party. Bunch of different options. The other chef is Chef Melissa from Alma in New Orleans. Just amazing talent. Really excited to see her food as well.
Oh, so good. Elle, another great show, another great chef, another great story, another great heritage on the plate. So appreciate that. We'll let you go. We got a lot more content coming, everybody. You'll be seeing a lot more of Elle from In the Weeds throughout the next couple of weeks. So Elle, you have a great rest of your day in your shack on the beach. All right. And go get that sumac. Go get that sumac.
All right. I'll see you later.
Cheers. All right, everybody. That is it for this episode. Best Served Podcast 346. My heritage through my food. That's this whole series when we're talking to chefs for these virtual dinners, because it's all about putting yourself, your family, your history, your culture on a plate. The better that we do that, and more importantly, the story that we tell, to be able to get to that point and to be able to have people truly experience what you and your people have experienced, I think is so profound. That's what can move you through food. And as I always say, food is just the proof that you are who you say you are. I want to know who you are. And that is it for this episode. Please, everybody, keep tuning into all the content across all the channels, from video cast to audio podcasts on Anchor, Apple, Google, wherever you get podcasts, to articles on bestservedpodcast.com's blog. You can find TikTok videos, Reels, Instagram takeovers, all of the content everywhere that you are. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Cheers.